What's up, everyone? The Comic Beast back with another episode of Behind the Grails. Before we get into this week's episode with JP Budget Collecting, I just wanted to say that before we recorded this behind the scenes, I did ask if he was comfortable talking about his lisp, and he said that he was bullied from that as a child and growing up, and that nowadays he has fully overcome that. He lives with it now, and it's something that he doesn't even recognize anymore, which is absolutely amazing. JP is an amazing friend, person, and has an awesome story and personality. You're gonna absolutely love this podcast. If you watched any of my other podcasts, you know that I'm a huge person that stands up against bullying. I've been bullied myself, and it sucks, but you'll meet the right people, you'll get over it, and it will overall get better. You just gotta keep going, keep getting after it, and just focus on you. Don't listen to anything they say. It will all pay off in the end. You just gotta keep going after it and not let them get in your head. So I just wanted to say that I didn't want to bring it up. I was going to talk about it in the interview, but I didn't want to change the whole mood of the conversations that we were having. I felt like we were having such awesome conversations. We were all laughing and just having a great time talking with one another, and I just didn't want to change the whole mood of that. So I just wanted to make this to show you that I'm one of those people that stands up against bullying, like I said, and I just wanted to put this out there before we got into the podcast. And I was also thinking of changing it to 5 books instead of 10, because, this is only the second episode. We're still trying to figure things out. I just feel like 10 is a lot. And, at the end of this podcast, you'll see that we're trying to shove in all the books. So I feel like going from 10 to maybe 3 or 5. Leave it in the comments below what you think a good number is of how many books that we should have them show off. But I just wanted to put this out there, tell you all about JP. He does not care about his lisp anymore. He doesn't recognize it, and he just lives with it now, which is absolutely amazing. And I just want to say thanks everyone for clicking on this video and watching this podcast. You won't regret it. JP is an awesome friend and is just a huge supporter in the comic community, and it's a great person to be around. So with all that being said, I hope you all enjoy this episode of Behind the Grails with JP's Budget Collecting. Let's go! What's up, everyone? The Comic Beast back with another video of Behind the Grails. Today, I have a very special guest on the show. It's a person that I've always wanted to do a video with for a very long time. We were talking about it a while ago, back when Hero and the Kid was around. We wanted to do some videos together, but we never got around to it. But now he's here, and we're just going to do it now, and I'm so happy that he's finally here. We got JP. You know him from his YouTube channel, JP Budget Collecting. Welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I am doing great. It is so good to finally do this, because we did. We talked about this 2 years ago almost, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then, we were going to do something and it never happened. So I am honored to finally get a chance to do this and hang out with you for a while and talk comics and life and whatever else we feel like talking about. So.
Yeah, I always thought you were a really cool person. You have a great personality, and I always wanted to have you on. But when I thought of having you on, everything started to change for me. The comics were changing into the fitness and videos and that sort of thing. And now I created this second channel so I can finally have people from the comic community on the show and just talk about comics and things we love outside of just work life and everything.
Yeah, and I will say, for everybody watching, I am so impressed by the workout stuff that you've been doing. And when I've never been able to dedicate myself to that level to get in that kind of shape. It is impressive. I respect the heck out of it. I hope you keep going. It's amazing, man. So.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can relay the same thing to you with your running. I look at your Instagram. I know we were talking about this backstage a little bit ago, and we were talking about the running, and the 4 miles is impressive. Even the 5 miles. I used to run a little bit, and I would only do 1 to 2 miles, and I'd be cooked for a day. I'd be
yeah,
I can't do anything.
That's something since I was your age that I could always go. I wasn't fast ever, but I could go a long distance. I had the endurance to go, which is funny because my older sister, she was a sprinter. She was got medals in state and that kind of stuff. I was not a sprinter, but I could just go, and I find peace in it. It's actually, I enjoy it. Put my music in my ears and I just go, and it's throwing everything out for a little bit and helps me stay in a little bit better shape. So,
Yeah.
when I spend as much time sitting at a desk as I do nowadays at work and at home, it's like I need to get moving a little bit. So
Yeah. I feel like I'm a bit like with your sister. Like I can't run like a long distance. I can do like short bursts, like as hard as I can, and then do that multiple times. But like one long way, I think I could only do that once in a while. But
yeah.
it's impressive though.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I've been trying. We're trying to get ourselves in good shape. So, but yeah, I am just happy to be here, and we can, looking forward to this.
Yeah. So I want to like keep talking about the little fitness stuff before we get into the comics a little bit. Just because I'm a huge fan of fitness. It's what I want to do with my life. I want to be a personal trainer one day, and like I'm just trying to get these conversations in and learn more about everyone. So like, what got you into like the running? Like, what was it? What was behind all of it? Like, was there like I know you said your sister was a sprinter and you just wanted to go. Like, was there a reason why you wanted why you're so attached to the running and not like say like the gym like I am?
So, like when I was younger, I don't know. Like, I think it was just a personality quirk of myself, plus just the way I was built. Like when I was a kid, like, and mind you, when I was a kid, like weight programs and that kind of stuff that we had for like sports and that kind of stuff were archaic compared to what they have now. But, I just it could never hold my interest that like I would start trying to get a weight program and I just would not stay with it. Whereas running, I could. Now, I didn't run for decades, like literally, like it was a long time. And during the pandemic, I was stuck at home and stuck sitting, and was like, I gotta do something. And I, have a dog, and we would go like before this. He and I would go on long walks when he was a pup, and we would go for 2 or 3 mile walks, but just a walk with him or whatever. And he's gotten old enough now; he doesn't really want to go that far. He's like, "No, I ain't doing that." And I was like, "I need to do something. I need to get myself moving, or I'm going to just like mold to the shape of this chair and never move again." And so I got back into it, and I really enjoy it. It's hard. Like, there's some days I enjoy it more than others. I will say the heat lately has made it a little less. You go out at 6:30 in the morning and it's already 80 degrees. It's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But we're sticking with it, and it's definitely feel a lot better about myself when I'm doing it than when I'm missing and not getting stuff done. So but as to why that is something I can do and stick with over the weights, I don't know. It's just never been able like that. I can, like I said, I just kind of zone out and go. And whereas like the weights, I feel like I'm having to think about it, and it just seems like more work, I guess, in a way. And it's just like, I've never had much luck sticking with that kind of a program compared to the running. So that's just kind of where I lean into because of it.
Yeah, we all have different ways of like doing what we want to do for like fitness and health wise. And you said you like to throw on your headphones and just go. Like, what's the music you listen to when you're going out on your runs? Like, what type of music? What's some of your favorite songs and bands?
Okay, so like I'm a very dated music person. Like I do not stay up on the new stuff, but like bands and stuff, a lot of it's still like stuff from when I was in college or just after. I'll listen to like the White Stripes will be on, and I'll listen to like the Hive, and I'm trying to think of stuff off the thing, but I also just have eclectic poppy stuff that just like gets me moving. Like there's like a couple of like Pink songs that are in there, and just things that like that have a beat that I can run to. But then I also have like Magic Carpet Ride, and just like I have this eclectic brand of music. Music's been always very different for me because I find myself, and then I'll have like Biggie in there, like and other things like that are in there because like when I was a kid, just like my dad was, when you were in dad's truck, it was country music only. So I have an appreciation for country music, but don't necessarily love it. But my mom was kind of poppy stuff, and my sister was 80s rock because that's when we were kids, you know.
Yeah.
It was Def Leppard and Van Halen and, you know, and that kind of stuff. And then as I got older and I met other people and I got to college, and there was like, got exposed to Radiohead and Ben Folds 5, and then like some of the other stuff, I just kind of gravitated different directions.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you go through my little playlist that I hit, it's like all kinds of stuff that's just, let me pull it up. Like, it's very random. Well, yeah, Nation Army is the one that's coming up right. That's the one that I ended on the other day. But like if you, oh my gosh, we got. Well, I would probably skip that one actually, but there's All American Rejects. There's Three Doors Down. There's another. There's Lenny Kravitz is in there. A little Lowrider. Oh my goodness, yeah. Black Eyed Peas. Like it's just an eclectic thing. There's Sir Mix-a-Lot in there. You know, it's just kind of like. And some days I'll like skip past stuff, and other days I'll like. That I'll listen to other days. It's just kind of differentiation that I've enjoyed over the years, and anything with a beat that I can keep moving to, like is really like the key thing for if I want to listen to it while I'm running. It's got to have some kind of little tempo that like help me keep moving, so that I can kind of match.
Yes.
So, yeah, I have very weird and eclectic music tastes, but like,
no, I like a lot of those bands and songs that you just listed, like the White Stripes. I listened to Jack White on Conan O'Brien's podcast, and that was a really good listen to.
yeah.
The relationship that the two of them have, like I love that band. And Pink, you know, my dad absolutely loves her and the songs that she puts out. Like a lot of those songs, it's like good to have like that diversity in the music when you're like doing something in fitness, so you're not always on the same type of beat, same type of thing, because you could get bored, and then you start thinking about your running, and then you're breathing, and you know you got to have something that kind of distracts you, and you know, it's good to have that diversity.
Yeah, I will say, because it like what I'll find is if the music's not keeping me distracted, like on days where my mind is thinking about stuff, whether it be work or whatever else, like I'm in my own head a little bit while I'm running, like my pace is way slower. Like I don't move, like, but if something comes on, if the music is like kind of keeping me from focusing on like just going and like losing myself in the run and in the music a little bit, I do way better. Like I feel like my breathing, my pace, I can do those days. It's easier to do the full distance. I don't feel like as tired and that kind of stuff during the run, when I can actually like kind of lose my focus, or I guess not lose my focus, but not be like block out the other stuff that's going on in life, you know?
Yeah.
So it, for sure. I mean, probably like, you know, I just was looking through here and bands I should have meant, like Red Hot Chili Peppers are in there, and there's a little bit of Gwen Stefani and yeah, there's just a whole bunch of just Led Zeppelin is in there. You know, it's like it's newer, it's older. There's Michael Jackson in there. There's CeeLo Green in there for, you know, for like it goes back and forth. It just and like you said, it's nice to have like you'll be listening to something, and when something that's a little different comes on, I can feel myself like, oh yeah, like that I haven't heard for a while, or it's just a different beat or a different tone. I like it, and you know, and it's really my music tastes are very much a taste of, like I said, when I was a kid, my folks listened to different music. My sister listened to different stuff. When I got college, I got exposed. My friends were listening to different stuff, and it's just like this eclectic of what I've taken from people over the years, because I've never been a huge music buff, but I do enjoy music, and so.
That's cool. And you're talking about some music that like relates back to your childhood, you know, your father listening to the country music in the truck, your mom with the pop music, and your sister with the metals, and you had your own kind of like taste, and it's like carried over till now. But like staying on the track of childhood, is there like a comic book that you have that you want to show that's like from your childhood, or one that like means the most to you, like back from a while ago?
I do. Now, originally you were said like the one that means the most we were going to save to last, and that was
Yeah.
that would be that one. But we can do it first. So if you want to do it first,
Okay.
So I was an interesting. Before I dig through the pile to get to it, but I was an interesting comic, not really collector as a kid. And you will not be able to relate to this at all. But when I was a kid in the late 80s, when my mom would go to the grocery store, I'd go anywhere with her. Like literally at the front of the grocery store by the checkouts, they would have like a magazine area. And like you would never do this with your kid nowadays.
Yeah.
And she would just leave me there to read books or things, and she would go get groceries. And then when she was checking out, she would holler at me, and I would come and we would leave. Like, so I would spend all of those times at the comic book spinner rack, like the old spinner racks, and just read comics and put them back. And I maybe once every great while I would buy one, but I never bought comics when I was a kid. Like I just read stuff while I was standing there waiting for my mom. And it was just a distraction. And, so comic books were always something I enjoyed, but I never like owned or kept or wasn't like a collector or anything. And so I didn't really start buying and collecting comics until I got to college. And like at the time, I didn't even know. Like, so I read things like The Death of Superman and The Breaking of Batman and the Clone Saga and like X-Men stuff and all of that from the late 80s, early 90s. Like I would read it and like, maybe you could read the next issue. Maybe you would find it the next time. But like, it was just this eclectic. Like I got the gist of the story from all these different things that I was reading. But by the time I got to college, I had a buddy that I was friends with, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the comic shop. You want to go with me?" And I was like, "There's a shop? It's just comics." Like I had no idea. This was in a town. Like I went to college in a town that I didn't live in, but it was like the big. Like I lived in a small town, and that was a town we would go to literally to get groceries and stuff. Like it was so, like we were only like 20 minutes from this town. So I had lived there. This shop had been there my whole life. I had no idea. But I walked in with him, and this was like I'd been in college maybe, gosh. Well, what does it say? What's the date on this? It says October 96, which it always comes out beforehand. So probably like September of 96, which is when I was a freshman in college. And I had read Batman, and like my favorites were always Batman and Spider-Man stuff. Always.
Yeah.
And so I walked in, and this is the book. This is Nightwing #1 from 1996, or from 96. This is my copy, my original copy. That I have no idea how it's a 96. I've read this thing 400 times. And it was Dick Grayson, Nightwing, going out. So he'd been on his own because he'd been with the Titans and other stuff before this, but taking on a city of his own, being off, trying to make it as a superhero without the Titans, without Batman, just him doing it in his own city, his own thing. And he's, obviously still young, still basically my age in the way he's depicted in this. And it was just a book that spoke to me. He instantly, when I started reading it during that period, became my favorite character. Still is my favorite character to this day. There was just a lot that like matched up with where I was at the time, right? I was at college. I was away from home. I was on my own, doing my own thing for the first time in my life, which is what he's doing in this book. And it just, to this day, still means a lot to me. And it was, so this is the book. Like, if there's a grail in my collection, this is the comic that got me into, like, seriously reading other comics. It got me to buying comics. It got me, like, all of it sort of, like, took a new step in terms of my love of comics and everything from this book. So, and this is my original issue. And I'm kind of sad I can't read it anymore, but I also wanted to not protect it because it was the issue, the one. So yeah, that is the book for me. So
was that did you pick that up at the spinner rack, or was that the one where you went
to the comic? That was Rock Bottom Comics, which I think is actually still there in Columbia. And yeah, I got it. Walked in and it's like, oh, because I knew who Nightwing was. Like I had read, I'd read some Titan stuff. I'd read enough Batman stuff just in general. I knew who the character was. I was like, oh, he's getting his own series. I'll start here. This is a good place to start. But didn't have the appreciation for him I would come to have from this series before this. So it was just kind of, but yeah, I mean, I have other books. I got rid of most of, so when I got done with college, I went to grad school in Virginia. So I moved from Missouri to Virginia and then back. And in those two moves, I got rid of most of the comics that I collected when I was in college and grad school. I didn't haul them back and forth. I got rid of a bunch of them. I probably kept a quarter to a third of what I had. Some of which were not the right choices because I know there's some books that I had that are worth quite a bit that are gone. Yeah. But them's the breaks. That's what happens. But yeah, it was so but I kept all my Nightwing stuff. I had basically from originally, I had 1 through 67 without a miss. From when I was collecting, and then when I was moving to grad school and stuff, there was basically in there was a break, and then I had another 10 or 15 issues in a row, and then that was it. I have since went back and I have all but, where's my little sheet at? I have all but 20 of that original 152 issue series now that I'm trying to go back and finish of this original run.
Yeah, nice.
So, it's probably the one run that if I had to get rid of everything else that I would probably keep just because.
Yeah. Like you said that you regret some of the books that you got rid of, and I was just going to ask if you regretted it, and you already answered my question, but I wanted to ask, what was the reason you got rid of them? Were you just tired of taking them everywhere, or you just wanted some extra cash on you?
So I never really thought of myself as a collector. It was very weird. I took care of the books, as you can see, even from this one, I took care of the books. They were bagged and boarded. But I never really thought about myself at that stage as a collector. I just got them to read. I didn't buy anything that I wasn't going to read. I didn't buy anything because I thought it was going to be worth something or anything like that. I didn't look for, which in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a ton of, I didn't go for special covers. I just wanted to read them. And once I read them, I kept them and I took care of them. But when it came down to moving, I'm like, oh, this is a lot to move halfway across the country. And I had a bunch of other crap to move. And it was well, which of these actually means something to me? All right, I'll keep those and I'll just get rid of the rest. And, and that it was basically culling to make moving easier. And it's well, I'll keep the ones that I really love and everything else can go. And, which is funny because I moved here. I will not into this house. This house I've been in 14 years, but I moved to the town where I have and took this job 19 years ago. I'm dating myself. And they sat in a file cabinet in my basement, a 4-drawer file cabinet. It was basically 3 drawers full, and then in the bottom drawer just had some other actually had the old Wizards in it for a long time, and then eventually got rid of those. So it's 3 drawers is all I kept of books, and they just sat down there. And for the most part, I didn't go back and read them. They just sat. The basement's dry. They were in good storage, but they just sat for 15 years. until I went and helped my sister move, and turned out she moved within a block of a comic shop, and I walked into it in late 2017 for the first time in 15 years. I walked into a comic shop, and then it was like then I found one nearby, and then I was back into it. So
now, getting that Nightwing book at that comic book shop, was that the first time you were in a comic book shop for the first time, like besides just like the spinner racks?
I don't remember for certain if this was like the first visit that we made to the shop. I don't remember that specifically. What I do remember is this was the book that like I had to keep going back for, and then I was getting other stuff because I had to keep going back for this, if that makes any sense. But I don't remember, like, I know Danny was like, hey, I'm gonna go down there, you want to go? And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, let's go. And then but I do not remember if that very first visit or not I picked this up. I just don't remember at this point. But I know like this was the series that got me to like consistently going and buying and reading, and so that was I just don't have a strong memory of whether or not that was the first visit or not.
Do you remember your first time ever going into a comic shop? Because I feel like that is an iconic moment for everyone in their comic collecting years. Like I remember my first time. I was never like a couple years ago. I've been collecting for 2 years now, and like 3 or 4 years ago, I was never into comic books or anything. My dad just had one short box, and it was just some comics in there that are worth some stuff now, like the first Ronin and some of the Avengers stuff. But nothing too crazy. And I remember like going to the store for the first time where he got those, and he was like, "You want to go on a ride with me?" And it was like a 45-minute drive to a comic book store. And I remember walking in, and it's downstairs. And when you go downstairs, it's small, but there's tables everywhere, and there's comics everywhere. There's statues on the walls and stuff. And I just remember like standing right at the end of the stairs, like looking in and taking it all in. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" And just seeing that for the first time was like such an amazing experience. I remember getting some Hellboy comics from there for the first time, and then like I was like, I want to start getting more comics. So then we started like doing research on where comic stores are, and there's like some like 30 minutes away. I live in a town where there's like nothing near me for like 30 minutes.
That was the main reason I got out of it, was because when I moved here, there was nothing close. There was no way to get them. Like, I mean, I could have like done subscription stuff, and I was just like, I'm just not going to do that. But there was no shop close, and there's still not. When like the one that I was going to for a while when I first got back in was 45 minutes away, and they've closed. There's now a new one in that same area that I have not checked out. I've just been ordering, but to go back to your question about the first trip, I don't have like I said, because I don't remember if this book was there. I don't have a clear memory of that first trip. It's been 26 years ago. So, of that first time that Danny and I went in, I remember going with him. I remember rock bottom, like, because I went in there a million times, and the old guy behind the counter that kind of like looked annoyed that there was people in the shop. Like he was friendly enough, but it's just like it never failed. He went in there, and even once I was a regular and like he knew me, and like it never failed. He was always just like you were bothering him. I was like, oh, I got to deal with customers, it was just kind of. But yeah, you walked in the door, and he had a little glass case, and he was behind it, and I don't even remember, like, it wasn't even like, to my recollection, like quality books that were in the glass case. It was just kind of an assortment of like cards and like just random crap in there.
Yeah.
That was like the counter that you bought from, and on the wall when you walked in was all the books, like all the new stuff, and then he had just tables with back issues on them to the side, and then he'd have some shelves. And I don't remember statues being nearly as big a thing. There was like other toys and stuff, but not really statues and stuff that would be up above. But yeah, it just I remember the shop. I remember him, but I don't really remember I don't remember that first visit. It's slipped for me at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely happens sometimes. I know you're like a huge collector and like you've been to probably a lot of stores and stuff like that. And
Not as much as you would think.
really?
I don't I have been, but I haven't done a ton of I'm going to go here and go to a store. I usually, when I go places, if I can find one that's convenient, I might go in. But I really haven't. The funny thing is, I used to for work travel a lot, but with the pandemic and everything else, since I really got back into collecting, I haven't really traveled that much. So I don't travel a ton for myself, and I usually just don't necessarily make time for it. I'll look if I stumble across a place, I'll go in, but I haven't been, and I don't go hunt a lot. I know a lot of people go hunt a ton. Because of my budget and everything else, I'm a very specific collector, so I try not to buy random, and so I don't necessarily go. I'm always looking for very specific books, so even if I go in a place and find some decent stuff, if it's not really on my list, I won't buy it. So I don't necessarily hunt a ton.
Yeah.
I do some, but I'm very targeted, because it's I want these books, and in order to get them, I can't be buying this other stuff. So I tend to be very targeted in what I'm doing when I go about trying to buy some stuff.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you do for work?
I work for I work for the Missouri Department of Conservation. I am in our science division. I do research on streams, which amounts to fish sampling and that kind of stuff, but water quantity management, in terms of making recommendations, working with, right now we're in the middle of a private power hydropower facility going through a relicensing. They have to license with the federal government, and we get a chance to put in recommendations about the flow releases and that kind of stuff, what the resources need in addition to what they're doing, and try to find balance there. And so I do, when I'm in the field, I get, a lot, the last couple of years I've been mostly in the office, but for most of my career, I spend most of my summers are usually on the river. I usually have a much better tan than I have this summer, because I'm on a boat on rivers and wading and doing a lot of river work. So
yeah. Now, do you enjoy it, or is that what you went to school for?
Oh yeah, I went to that was what I went to school for, and there are days I absolutely love it. There are days when I'm in the office and dealing with the things that come with doing research and just working for an agency like this, that it's this job sucks. But everybody has those days. No, It doesn't really matter what you do. If every day is wonderful, then I haven't met that. I can't imagine a job like that. I can't imagine it's very challenging if every day is wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the river stuff I absolutely love, and but once you collect that data and that kind of stuff and having to do something with it, some days that is not as fun. When you're on calls with the power company trying to come to a solution on some stuff, some days those can be frustrating or whatever. But for the most part, it's good. And now it's government work. I don't live high on the hog, but it's I get by. So and the benefits, like I said, the days when you're out on the river on a beautiful day, it could be, the benefits are amazing.
Definitely.
Now, when you're out doing something on a day like today, and the rivers there's hardly any water, and what's there is stagnant and warm, and you're walking through weeds on the bank that are waist high, and you're getting ticks and chiggers, and those days can suck. Not every day on the river is wonderful, but
Yeah.
fortunately today I was not on the river. I was in the air conditioning. So there you go. So,
Yeah. And you said you do a lot of traveling. Did you have to go like cross country to like different rivers and stuff and do work for that?
no,
Like,
no, it was mostly like I would go to meetings and conferences and that kind of stuff for work.
okay.
And there was a while there that I was basically doing at least one kind of week-long trip a year somewhere for a conference or something. And so I don't know that it's a lot of travel. Like compared to most people, that's not a lot of traveling. And then I did a lot of traveling, like for some of my projects around the state, because technically in our science division, all of us have statewide responsibilities. So like driving to different parts of the state as well. So not necessarily to do river stuff like you're talking about, look at different rivers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like my jurisdiction doesn't go outside of Missouri in terms of what my research and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've been to meetings and that kind of stuff in other places as well.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Met with other people that do my kind of work in different parts of the country. So
Yeah. You listen to like the people that are like comedians and like pro wrestlers, and they're talking about how like for like 40 something weeks of the year they're out. And it's like
not that kind of travel.
Yeah.
So I mean, typically, early in my career, I had a project where I had sites literally scattered all over the state, and I basically traveled, I would say, 4 out of every 5 weeks for those couple of summers to different, where I would go to a site and basically be there all week and come back and like doing overnights in hotels until I got all of those sites done in the summer. So like late May through usually we were done by like the beginning of August. I would travel basically every week, with a few exceptions. But I haven't had a project like that for a while. The last few things I've had have been close enough. I can mostly do day trips and that kind of stuff. So it's been a little bit easier, not have to do quite as many hotel stays and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, before I continue or change the topic, I want to see what like your next book you have on your list that you would like to show with everyone.
Okay. So I don't remember what was it. I didn't really have them ranked, but kinda. So it was a weird thing because you asked me for like the books that mean the most, and I got to the end, and I realized I did not have a Spider-Man book in the 10. And like Spider-Man was like next to Batman and Spider-Man have always been my favorites. And it's just kind of like, it's a quirk because if you went to 15, I would probably have like 3 more Spider-Man books related, like characters. Yeah. So it was just kind of a quirk of the way I ended up making the list. So it was like, so this could have been about 5 different books, and it's very close. I went with this one because of the time in which I grew up reading Spider-Man, and then just my ability, what characters I can get, and that kind of stuff. So this is ASM 42, which is the first appearance, in my opinion, of Mary Jane, which is one of the bigger characters in all the history of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But one of the more undervalued books. Like, of course, her first appearance is scattered over like 9 books. But this is the Face It Tiger, You Hit the Jackpot scene at the end of the book. This is that book. Like just I had to have one in there. MJ is probably the female character that's been like the most constant in like Spider-Man, and then just in my enjoyment of the character. You can argue I actually enjoy some of the other characters more now than I do her, but I just felt like this kind of represents sort of the way I've went about collecting Spider-Man stuff, because like a lot of the big villains are just super expensive books. And so I've really focused on some of the characters that I felt were undervalued, like MJ, and I got the Gwen Stacy book, and I got like the Black Cat book, and some of those kinds of things that I've done in my Spider-Man collecting. So that was the second book that I kind of grabbed. I was like, I got to have an ASM book in there, and that's the one I picked for meaning the most, just because like the fact that like when I went back and like literally I bought that book with change. Because like I would save like quarters and pennies, you just set it aside and they'll sit there for a couple of years and like you go back and I'll take it to the bank. Well, I had like $140 of like quarters and dimes and stuff that were just sitting there. And literally that was $130 book at the time. Now it's like a $300 or $400 book, I think. But like when I first got back in, that's how undervalued her first appearance was.
Yeah.
Like I literally bought it with the loose change I cashed in, and then I was like, I'm going to get a book with this, and that's the book I got.
Now, yeah, a couple of funny things from that. One, you say you pay with change with that, and it just brought up a little thing from when I did the podcast with John Ross. He was saying that when he was collecting, he started collecting way back in the old days, and he remembers buying giant X-Men off the shelf with a quarter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, when he first, like, even when I first got, like, when I was buying them, like, on the spinner rack, they were still, like $1, like, I remember when books went to, like $1.50, like, it was by the time I was in college, they were like $2, like $1.95 for that Nightwing #1 or whatever. And people were just like, nobody's going to pay this. This is outrageous. And like,
Well, yeah, you look at it now and they're like $4 or $5. And
yeah. And it was like $1 was a big deal at the time that like they were charging $1 for a comic. And it was like, yeah, well, everything keeps going up. So
now you also said that for Mary Jane, that's what you think her first appearance is. Now, I want to ask, like, the other controversial issues of 180 and 181, what's yours? What's your first appearance?
Okay, so I feel like here's my problem with the whole first appearance thing, and I'm just going to say it, is we are not consistent, like, as collectors. And we're not consistent because we love covers. And so if there's 2 books that are possible and one of them has a better cover, we're going to say the one with the better cover, even if it contradicts the same thing we said about another character over here.
Yeah.
So for me, if you see the character, like if you can see their face, the whole character,
yep,
they speak and they are named. So you know what their name, like, so at the back of 180.
Yep.
Wolverine appears. It says Wolverine and he talks. That is his first appearance in comic books. You didn't get. It's not like her. So with MJ, like she appears in 20. She appears in what is it? What's the Craven book? Is it 12 or 15? 15, I think.
Yeah. I can't remember off the top.
Anyway, the first appearance of Craven, she appears like through the window. She's talking to Aunt May. You can see like a little silhouette thing, but you don't see her. Like she's in there, but you don't see her. That's a cameo because you don't know what she looks like. You're just hearing her talk.
Yeah.
I have 25 where she's talking to Liz and Liz and Betty see her and are like jealous, but you don't see her. There's a flower in front of her face. Like you can't see her face. She's talking, but to me, that's that defines as a cameo.
Yeah.
CGC actually says 43 is her first appearance because she's throughout that book.
Mm-hmm.
This is 42. She's just on the last page. He opens the door. She's there. It's like Mary Jane, and she's like, "Face the tiger, you just hit the jackpot." Like,
yeah.
To me, that's the same. Based on that rule, that I think this is her first appearance. That would make 180 the first appearance of Wolverine.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we just stuck to that rule, like. That's a very easy rule to follow. Like that these are the character, like for a character's first appearance, and would clear up a ton of like the controversy. But we want the cover. We love the cover as collectors, and that's why 181. That's why the Gambit thing, which you are like responsible for, like at least part of. Like I feel like you were the first one that really brought that to notice, and then other people built off of that. But on the annual, and like, but people like that book clearly came out beforehand. He's through that whole book, but people still want the 266, right? And that he's on the cover of because he's on the cover.
Yeah,
and that's
I'm looking at like Key Collector and watching like Tom's videos, and they're going with officially like a 266, but I'm like,
I know.
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
I have
It's supposed to be. And
yeah,
it was a quirk of the release and stuff, which happens.
yeah,
But it's not. It's like he's in that other book completely. And it's technically in timeline, it's first.
yeah,
Like it happened before that one did, but the other one got released. So like that one I get a little bit, but people are always gonna latch onto that other book because of the cover. Because
yeah.
it's on the cover. And
I mean, it's his first cover appearance.
I know.
Yeah,
So, but that's So it just makes me laugh that it's because we're really all about like we will twist and do everything we can in order to. Well, that's not really the first appearance. This because I like this book better.
yeah,
And so, but then it's some other character they'll be like, oh, well, this is the big book because, I mean, you see a book like, what is it that Captain Marvel 14, the second print where they put Kamala on the cover. It's the
oh
book.
yeah.
That second print where she's on the cover is the book. Her appearance in Captain Marvel 14 is from behind a kid with Carol Danvers' like photo on her mirror and her flexing like pretending she's in, but you don't see her. She doesn't speak. You don't have a clue what she looks like. That's the one panel from behind, but that's the book. That is the book now. So it's just kind of like people will twist themselves however they want to get the cover that they want. So
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to go back. Like you said, you paid the $130 with quarters and dimes, and it just.
Well, I cashed it in.
Yeah. I know. I'm just saying, like, but like, I just started my first job, and I work at McDonald's, and just for some money. It's just my first job.
Right.
Just to get some money to save up, and like. My second day, they put me in the window, and I had to like cash people out and like hand them their food, and it was the lunch rush, and there was a line wrapped around the building, and the whole deal of fast food, and especially at McDonald's, one of the biggest like corporations in the world. You want to keep the line moving, you want to keep everyone going, you want to keep the time under like a minute.
Yeah.
And we coming through, everything's moving well, and then a guy comes up with like a $45 order. And he gives me a coffee box full of coins, and I had to clean it all out.
I would have just been like, no.
Yeah.
You go over there.
I was like, all right, four quarters. Oh, here's a nickel. And then I got it all from that coffee box, and it was like 33. And then I was like, you're still $12 short. And then he was like, here you go. Here's another box. And it took like 10 minutes of just sitting there.
Oh, my God. I would have been like, no way. Well, the funny thing is, like, I used to do that, like, the quarter thing, like, and it would accumulate so fast.
Yeah.
But now, I almost never use cash. Like, so I don't accumulate coins hardly at all. Like, it takes a lot longer. Like, I don't know how long that was even then, because that was kind of more in the transition period where I was still using cash quite a bit. Because I bought that book 18, something like that. I don't know, 2018 or 2019. And, well, actually, I would know. It's on one of these lists here somewhere, but 2019. So, but yeah, it just takes forever to accumulate that kind of coins. But I just don't do anything with them. I throw them in. I got a jar. I throw them in there, and every so often I'll go through and like once a year, I'll go through and like bundle what I got, and throw it into a different thing that like until I have enough that's worth like trying to cash in for something.
Yeah, so. It's so much easier when a person like comes through and they hand you your credit card and you just stick it in. And
it's so much more convenient. But but I just don't use cash anymore. But I used to do that, and then every year, every 2 years, I'd cash out. Like when I was your age, I'd cash out.
Yeah.
50, I remember $70 of coins every couple of years. It's like that I just accumulated from change. And Yeah, nowadays it's like, yeah, I would guess that was probably like 3 or 4 years worth of coins that that bought that at least.
Yeah.
So
And it's like before I started this job, I had no idea what Apple Pay was. I have an Android, so it's like when I was in the window and they come up and I'm like, your total's 13 whatever, and they're like, I have Apple Pay, and I'm like, well, what's Apple Pay? And they're like, I just put my phone against the thing, so I had to like take it off and like stick it out the window, and I was like, that is crazy. Like it has the credit card on the phone, and I'm like, wow, it's just crazy how everything's improving.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly don't hardly ever use it. I usually still use like my debit card and stuff. But yeah, like you can. And I just don't use it very often. But I do occasionally use Apple Pay.
Yeah, so. It's definitely something else. But yeah. Before we move on, why don't you show another one of the books that you want to show off, because we've only done 2 so far and it's been 50 minutes.
We're 50 minutes in. So why don't we run through a couple?
All right, sounds good.
And then we can talk about different things. So for me, I focus on 4 things for my collecting. It's bats, spiders, Star Wars, and female first appearances. Because female first appearances are mostly underrated. Plus, some of my favorite characters are the female characters. So, so I had to put in one of my Star Wars books. I did finally get Star Wars #1.
That's cool.
And so, just from a kid, I can't tell you how many times I watched the original trilogy of movies, like literally a billion times. Because we didn't have on demand, we didn't have cable. Like I had old VHS tapes that I watched that my dad recorded. He was a fireman, and at the firehouse they had HBO, which we didn't have at the house. So he recorded them off all of us on the VCR, and then my sister and I watched those like literally a billion times. So I'm just a huge Star Wars fan. So that was a big get for me. And then actually I will save that book for a second. And then the other 2 books that I'm going to talk about real quick are 2 characters that 5 years ago meant nothing to me. And when I got back in to comics, like I'd always kind of kept a cursory, like what was going on, but it wasn't really reading. So I kind of knew. And I kind of knew a couple of the runs that were really good. And I walked into that shop. So I picked up 2 trades to just read that day I walked into the shop with my sister after all those years. And one of them was The Mighty Thor with Jane Foster's Thor. And the other one was All New Wolverine with Laura as Wolverine. And those runs are what hooked me back in, and were just characters that I just fell in love with for those runs. So, and they're really what the 2 main things that kind of hooked me back in, that got me back to collecting. And so my journey into Mystery 84, low grade better than no grade, but we'll take it. First Jane Foster.
That's cool. I like that cover.
Second Thor, first Jane Foster. She's actually on the cover right there. And so like I said, super low grade, but that's a big book in a high grade, so I'll take my low grades. And then the other one is my NYX #3, first Laura Kinney, first X-23. They were just 2 characters that really got me back into collecting, and I just really enjoy and am happy that I was able to snag both their first appearances. And having the first appearance of, those are books that I didn't necessarily think I would get when I got back in, and happy that I was able to like work deals and sell books and get where I could buy them. So
yeah, I'm not sure if you watched my last video about my flea market that I went to, like that 2-minute Tuesday that was like a 5-minute thing.
I don't know if I think I might have missed that one.
Yeah, I put it out like this past week, but it's fine. I can just explain it to you now, which I was gonna do anyway. But like, I went to this giant flea market, and it's like this town in Massachusetts. It's the Brimfield Flea Market.
Okay.
And this town is known for the flea markets. Like, it's one of the biggest in New England, and there's just tents everywhere, like 3 rows deep of tents, and it just goes on for like 3/4 of a mile, probably.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's just huge. They do that 3 times a year, and like if you go when the flea market's not in session, it's just fences everywhere, and there's like absolutely nothing there.
Yeah.
But when you go, it's just tents everywhere, people's everywhere, and they got food trucks and everything. Like people go for like the whole day just looking at everything, eating the food. They got like Ben and Jerry's and everything there. It's just a wild experience. So if you ever like come up to New England, like you got to like come during that time to go check it out. And we're there. I got the first appearance of the Thunderbolts for $100. They had it originally for $145, and I was like debating whether or not I should get it. So I went over and we were looking at it, and then we left the tent, and then we came back like 5 minutes later, and I was like, "Would you take $100 for it?" And he was like, "Yeah." So got $100 for that, and then we were looking around, and we went into the very back of the like the rows of it on the side, and we're in the back. There's this like tent where not a lot of people were, and there's 3 comic boxes, short ones, and I'm digging through it, and there's like 30 of the Spider-Woman #1s, the same with Dazzler #1s, and Indiana Jones #1. That was one whole box. It was just rows of them. And then I go in the next one, and I'm looking, and I see Swamp Thing #1 for $275.
Nice.
And then I see 2 issues of What If Jane Foster Picked Up Mjolnir. And then I keep digging. I see, what did I see? I saw Eternals #1. And then the biggest book in there, I was still shocked to see it in there. It was Fantastic Four 52, the first Black Panther. Yeah, it was just sitting there in the raw, in a random flea market, like outside of the tent. Anyone could like look through and take it. And the guys that were working the tent were on the other side, so I was like, I could literally just take this, but I wasn't going to. It was just like right there, and I pick it up, and it's like the first time holding in my hands raw copy for the very first time, and I was just like, I can't believe that this is just sitting here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a high grade. It would probably been a 0.5. The cover was detached, but like still, just holding that iconic book and character.
They just have it sitting in a box at a flea market. You never know what you're going to find in those things.
Yeah, it was crazy to experience. And, that reminded me when I saw the 1 grade of the...
Yeah, the 1.0. So that was actually, I got that from Matt, the boy who had 7. He is a super low, and of course that's not nearly good enough for him, but it's got a spine split and some other stuff. But no, I just wanted a copy. But your story there, remember I told you at the beginning, like I got rid of a bunch of those books that I collected in the late 90s and stuff. Yeah, I had a Thunderbolts #1 that I think I got rid of for like $1 an issue in a stack of like stuff that I just like gave away when I was like, I'm moving, I don't need this, Ron. Like when I know I had probably like the first 10, 12 issues of Thunderbolts or whatever, and then I just and then I was like, I don't need these. So, that's one of the books.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was cool because I found those. I was either gonna get that or the first Raccoon, and I was like, I feel like Rocket is like done with his hype. There's nothing too crazy is gonna happen with this book. He's already been in the Guardians, Avengers, and everything. So I was like, Thunderbolts. I thought they were saying something about like
I guess we're gonna get a Thunderbolts.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick this one up, see if it does anything, and we'll see how it goes from there. But it was a fun time to go and get those books.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they do use the Thunderbolts name now that he's passed, that the actor passed away. But I would guess they still do. But in some form or another, even if they don't, if they just do it, because I know that's what they've been setting up with the whole John Walker thing and Elena and the Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. Like I know that's what they're setting up, but some sort of Thunderbolts thing. So
yeah, it's definitely gonna be cool to see once it all comes like together. Like even now, like watching, I went and saw the new Thor movie, and like everything that they're incorporating now, like into the things that I thought would take like years to go. Like when I had the first appearance at Gore, and I sold it when they announced like this movie was.
Oh, you sold it the right time then, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember how much I got for it because it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, I had the Gore book, and I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be like 10 to 15 years before they even get up to, Gore and the Necro Sword, and it's already in the theaters, and just it's all coming together. It's like so fast, and geez.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because they were talking to Natalie Portman, and you think about when the MCU started, but when she made her last appearance in Thor: The Dark World, none of the Jane Foster Thor stories had been written. Like when she left, none of that had happened with the character. Like she's like, I had no idea this was a potential story. And then they come to me and like, she's like, I hadn't been following it. I didn't know they'd done this. And then like Taika came to me and it was just like, and it's like, and now you feel like, well, that's been several years ago. But yeah, you think about the timing of when those movies came out. Yeah. It's already like all the Jane Foster Thor stuff was between her appearances.
Yeah.
And they've already done it, and it's just they've cranked it out really quick on some of those things. So.
Yeah, like especially with this and Gore and like the Necro Sword rounds, like they're already like showing Null's sword. I'm like, oh my god! Yeah. It's like I thought Null would be like way down in the future, but who knows what we'll see in the next couple of years.
Well, Null will be complicated because
definitely
technically he belongs to Sony.
Yeah,
because he's Spider-Man, Venom. Like,
well, did you see what like Kevin Feige said to Sony? He was like, Sony, don't get too big making your whole Spider-Man universe. I still have plans with them. And he left it at that. And I was like, oh my god.
Well, I mean, it's at this point, the only reason Sony Pictures even exists is because of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because Sony's been trying to sell it, but they haven't been able to get a deal that's worth it because the rights of Spider-Man don't go with a sale. If Sony sells Sony Pictures, Spider-Man's rights revert back to Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't really sell it because they can't get value for their biggest franchise that they own. So because nobody will give it because they're not getting Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So they're the only reason they still exist is because of Spider-Man. Because they can't like offset that value. They just keep trying to crank out crappy movies like Morbius so that they hold the rights.
I still haven't even seen that movie yet.
I haven't either, but it's just like it looks so bad.
Yeah, it does.
This looks terrible.
My dad's like, I just want to watch that movie so I can see how bad it is.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like doing the same thing with like the first Venom movie I did not like, and the second one was a little bit better, but like I wish they made it like R, like rated R, and instead of the PG-13 because they were like trying to like fit stuff in that didn't seem right, and I was like, it's just a waste of an awesome character.
I mean, it's just not the same. If Pete's not involved, it's just not the same story. It's not the same character really building why Venom is the way he is in a lot of ways. So it's oh well, we'll see. I mean, it's just a big money grab by Sony, and at some point, hopefully, it'll end. But who knows when that'll be? So
yeah. And I know we reached the hour mark now, but we can keep going if you want. If you want to show off another couple.
I can run through the other books. Real quick. And so, like, I'm a big like the other like I talked about before. Is most of the rest of the books are Bat family related, and so I could have went a couple different ways with this book as well, but this one means a lot because my first really good friend in the comic community. Well, it was two of them, but one of them was more so was Kavi, was Comic Books NYC. He was the person I reached out to, agreed to do shows with me, like really like was a big part of getting me into the community. Him and John were the two main ones that really helped me get going. But there were others, but those were kind of the first two that were already making videos. And he gave me just an unbelievable AOK. And I tried to keep, I could have filled this list with just AOKs, but like I tried to keep it, but yeah. And one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite Bat characters.
Oh my, wow.
Yeah, like just stupid. And this book has exploded since when he gave it to me, but it's just, yeah. First Poison Ivy with the date stamp on the back, which is always really cool. And yeah, so I mean, I could have went Harley. I love the Harley, Ivy, Catwoman. Those are some of my favorites. But this is just came from Kavi. It's just an amazing book.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just stupid nice, really.
Yeah.
Another book I have is a book that I never even really considered that I'd get initially or be able to get, and found this copy for a reasonable price. Like I said, a lot of my favorite Bat characters, like I'll never be able to afford their first appearance. Like I'm not getting the first appearance of Dick Grayson. I'm not getting the first appearance of Bruce Wayne. I'm not getting the Joker and Catwoman, which is Batman 1. I'm not, none of those books. So, but a book I could get, even Catwoman's first cover appearance is super hard. But her first cover appearance on Batman, I was able to get, which is her second cover appearance overall.
Oh, wow.
And actually, my maybe favorite of her Golden Age covers, Batman 42 from 1947, just an amazing book. Obviously, Golden Age, low grade, but color still pops on it really nice.
Yeah.
And just super happy to have that in the collection for sure. And then what do I got left? I don't even know what I got left here. I got all right, a couple more that kind of go with the kindness of the community. I probably should have had them after the Poison Ivy book. Another one of my early friends in the community was Bear Island Comics, Adam.
Yeah.
And early on, before he was even doing videos, he'd reached out to me. He was going to C2E2 and I wasn't. And at the time, we didn't really realize how hard it was going to be. But I was kind of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go this year. And I'm going to miss George Perez. And I kind of wanted him to sign my Teen Titans 44 first appearance of Nightwing. George and Marv, like I love that Teen Titans run. So my friend Bear Island was like, hey, I got a copy of #1. Would you like? I'll get a sign for you if you want. And I was like, okay, that would be awesome. Well, then George ended up getting sick and he wasn't there. But it was going to be the last year he was doing cons. He hadn't told anybody about the other stuff yet. He just said he wasn't going to do cons anymore. So he hunted him down at another, like him and Marv at 2 other cons later in the year, and got me a new Teen Titans signed by Marv and George.
That's awesome.
Just one of my favorite runs, favorite group of characters. And he just did it. Like originally it was supposed to be we were going to make a trade and we were going to do some stuff, and then no, he just ended up sending it to me. And it was just like, I was like, oh my gosh. And he put in so much work, and these characters mean so much to me that I had to, this definitely would go in my 10 kind of most meaningful books for sure. Yeah. And then 2 books left. So we talked about my love for Nightwing. And my other favorite character is Barbara Gordon. So those two, like her as I grew up with her mostly as Oracle, but just those 2 characters, I just love those characters. They're dynamic, everything about them. Hence, I love the current Nightwing run a ton.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
And so one of the early big books that I went after when I got in was the first Barbara Gordon. This was a book I had to have. Was high priority. It was really the first time I really made a list. It was the #1 book on my list that I was like, okay, I'm going to go get big books. This is where I'm going to start. I had to put that right at the top of the list, and amazingly happy to have that. It's way down on the end, but that's okay.
All right.
But that sets up. So here, I'm going to swap it real quick. So those are my 2 favorite comic characters. And I should have pulled the other book. Actually, I can still pull it real quick. And when I was collecting in the 90s, they were kind of together, and then before they kind of pulled them apart. And one of my favorite comics, just favorite comics in general, was this Birds of Prey. This was from my original collection. #8, which was like the date, and it was a big deal that they actually like had them dating, and like this was like a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
They'd always kind of just will they, won't they kind of thing, and they actually had him go on a date and everything else, and so it was kind of a big deal. And so just I love that cover, love that book. Well, J Hood Creative, Jamie, you know who he is in the community. He's an amazing artist, just
Definitely
unbelievable artist. Well, he knows what I love and everything else, and he did a sketch cover for me, and it has to go into my favorite books. Like I have other sketch covers, but none of them will ever like touch this. This is a J Hood Creative sketch cover.
Wow.
That he did, Batman the Animated Series style.
Yeah.
Homage to that book, and just ridiculously like amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I keep saying I'm going to send it back to him so he can send it to CGC and get it like yellow labeled, but I don't like want to give it up to do it. So,
yeah.
like, I don't want it out of my possession.
Yeah.
So that was the last book I decided I had to put in my 10 meaningful books to me. I mean, it was so hard to like narrow it down to that, but yeah, I had to put that one in there. So
yeah, whenever people ask me what my like top 10, I always have to have my J Hood one in.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I'd forgotten about that one. I did remember seeing that now that you show it. Like I couldn't remember what it was when you first said it there, but that's awesome. He's so good.
I wasn't even expecting that. Like I remember doing the podcast with him a while ago, and he's like, when we do the podcast, I'm gonna draw on the blank cover for you, and I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I'm not gonna show you what it is. And then it took him like a month to finish it, and then it arrived in the mail. And I was blown away by it. And
no, I didn't even know he was doing it. Like he just and it was like he's like, hey, something. And I was like, what? And it just showed up, and he's just an amazing artist and a super nice guy.
Yeah, definitely.
So just the fact that it came from him, and he knew what I loved, and just like took the time to do it. It's just So those were my 10 bucks. I got through them only an hour and 10 minutes. That's fine. At the end, but
I would love to like have you back on again. Like you're such a great person to talk to. Your personality is something else. I find you like a super fascinating person. You're very kind, and I love having you on. You're so passionate about what you do, and you're running and collecting comic books. Like your 10 list. It was crazy, like just seeing you pull up every single one of those books. I was blown away by, and I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing the books and sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. I always appreciate hanging out with people in the community, and I spent a year plus, almost about a year on Comic YouTube, not even typing in the chat, just watching, and like. From the moment I started typing in the chat, I just got embraced, and then I started making videos, and like the level of how well people have treated me, I feel honored. I try to give back. I try to, treat people the best I can, and I just have a good time. I enjoy having people to talk about this kind of stuff with. When I was a kid, I didn't necessarily have that. It was kind of my secret a lot of times, that I did this and was into this kind of stuff, and. It's nice to have a community. So, and I say it's like you are inspiring. I will say this, like doing this and being so forward and doing the workout stuff and putting yourself out there. That's a big step for that takes a lot of courage. And like from the moment you started doing like the Hero and the Kids stuff, and it was just like, I've been super impressed. I'm glad we finally got to hang out for an hour and talk. And, I would look forward to doing it again anytime.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I want to just thank you for coming on. And like I said, you're just an amazing person to talk to. And thank you for doing that. Before we go, why don't you tell everyone what you have coming up on your YouTube and what your future plans are with your channel?
Well, my channel is kind of because of work stuff. I haven't been too outside the box lately. It's been very much my typical stuff, but I still do the look back, which was kind of the first inspired video. It'll come out tomorrow. Well, I don't know when you're going to post this, but comes out on Saturdays. I do the 6-month look back. I look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago and just see what they've done. And generally the message is, hey, be patient. Don't chase hot books in the moment. Don't chase announcements. Like if you're patient, you're going to find a better deal. That is very much the thing. And I've been doing that for 3.5 years at this point, like doing those videos. I've definitely missed weeks, but we've been doing it for 3.5 years. And it's a little repetitive, but I still get people that are like, hey, I just found your channel. I just found this video. This is super helpful. And so I keep doing it. I do a Cash or Trash, where I talk about the hot books of this week, and I make predictions for my 6-month video. And, and I try to have a little humor with that. I don't take myself and my predictions too seriously. Yeah. I know that I'm going to miss. And if I knew for sure, if I could read the future, I would be a lot richer if I knew what these books are really going to do. But, we have fun with it. We do that on Sundays. Saturday nights, I do my whatever report, which is I just hang out and kind of just talk about whatever's going on, the latest Marvel TV show or movie, or what I picked up that week or whatever. We call it the whatever report for a reason, because I never know where I'm going to go with it. I do host a D&D game with some other members of the comic community right now on my channel on Sundays. And then the other thing I do quite a bit is the indie show, where I read independent comics trades with members of the community, and we talk about them. Right now, this next week, we're talking about Black Hammer. We're getting ready to start with a new group. We're going to start Paper Girls here in the next week or so. I've been reading Usagi with a group. I'm reading Sandman with a group right now. So I got 4 titles going at the moment that we're kind of just rotating and talking about. So a lot, and sometimes not very much. It just kind of ebbs and flows depending on what I got going on. So
well, I want to thank everyone for watching. Before you all leave, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm the Comic Beast. I'm here with JP from JP's Budget Collecting. I'll catch you in the next episode of Behind the Grails.